Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Deva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supreme most human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Kayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. And by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise is content of the songs is Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna. We're reading from the 9th canto, 18th chapter, I think text 102. So we'll put that up shortly. The chapter is entitled King Yayati Regains His Youth. So text 1. Text 1's 5. We all go? We'll alternate? Okay.
Shukadeva Goswami said, O King in correction, as the embodied soul has 6 senses, King Bhushan has 6 sons named Yati, Yayati, Samyati, Ayati, Yati, and Titi.
When one enters the post of king or head of the government, one cannot understand the meaning of self-reliance. Knowing this, Yati, the eldest son of Nahusha, did not accept the power to rule, although it was offered by his father.
Because Nahusha, the father of Yayati, molested Indra's wife, Sachi, who then complained to Agastya and other Brahmanas. These saintly Brahmanas cursed Nahusa to fall from the heavenly planets and be degraded to the status of a python. Consequently, Yayati became the king.
King Yayati had 4 younger brothers, whom he allowed to rule the 4 directions. Yayati himself married Devyani, the daughter of Shukracharya, and Sarvishta, the daughter of Prabhu, and ruled the entire world.
Maharaj Parikshit said, Sukracharya was a very powerful Brahmana, and Maharaj Yayati was a Kshatriya. Therefore, I am curious to know how there occurred this Pratiloma marriage between a Kshatriya and a Brahmana.
Shukadeva Goswami said,
Okay. Hare Krishna. So it is my good fortune to be in the association of all the devotees, to get a chance to serve you all, seeking the blessings of Maharaj and all the... Thank you, Maharaj. And all the assembled devotees to glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are literally, before we get into this particular chapter, we are literally 1 week away from a milestone festival in our yatra in Toronto. It's the 53rd Rath Yatra. And I was just reflecting, we're going to pull the chariots down Yonge Street and then take the deities across to Center Island. We all know that represents Gundicha. But I was just meditating that the Lord actually will be available to all of us in 5 different forms on the island. Let's maybe warm up with a bit of that. The first is obviously the deity of Jagannath, right? Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears. What could be the other 4? The Hare Krishna Mahamantra, yes, that is the second. The holy name is Abhinnatat Namanam, non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, third one, Prabhu. That was the holy name. Prashadam? Who said Prashadam? Sathak Prabhu, yes, Mahaprashadam. Mahaprashadam of Jagannath is considered to be non-different from Jagannath. That's why in Jagannath Puri, when you're given Mahaprashad and you're walking on the street, you take your shoes off, you literally offer obeisances. So that's a third. The fourth? Sorry? Very simple. Yes, the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm not in Vaikuntha. I'm not in the heart of the yogis. But wherever my devotees are glorifying me, I will be there. So Prabhu, to your point, that the 5 forms of the Supreme Lord will only be accessible to us because of the grace of one personality, Srila Prabhupada, who made the society, who made the festival of Rath Yatra available to us. Srila Prabhupada will be present in his deity form, in the form of his purports in his books. I think there's a whole tent which places his Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And we just chanted upstairs in Guru Puja that the lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way of obtaining pure devotional service. So accessing these 5 personalities and these forms of the Supreme Lord is only possible through the Guru, Srila Prabhupada in this case. So let us all participate enthusiastically. It's just 1 week to go. But coming back to the literary incarnation, the Shabda Brahman, the Grantharaj, the Srimad Bhagavatam is explained to be the essence, the cream of all literature. And the 10th canto is the topmost of that cream of the literature. And we're about to end the 9th canto, and we're on the precipice of entering that 10th canto. So it is a very, very important junction to be at. The 9th canto reveals many, many important things that are relevant for us to get there. But when you read the 9th canto, and when you read the pastimes there, it's a bit bewildering as to, wow, these are the pastimes in the 9th canto? And I will go through them sequentially, like how is it that this is in the Srimad Bhagavatam? So the 9th canto has various stories, and we'll get to today's chapter, the King Yayati regains his youth. But before that, I just want to touch at the start, there is the fall down of Saubhari Muni, which is also a very bewildering pastime, like wow, here's this great sage who was performing tapasya underwater. And he had the powers to be able to retain his prana and meditate underwater for many years. But he saw illicit activity between the fishes and he fell down. Now imagine, in the previous few cantos, Ajamil saw illicit activity between human beings, a prostitute and another man and a Shudra, and he fell down from that. But Saubhari Muni saw illicit activities even on a different species, and he fell down from there. So this is the gateway to the 10th canto, and it is very seriously warning us of the consequences of not being able to control the mind. So Saubhari Muni looked at that and he thought, wow, maybe I should get married. And he comes out of the water and he goes to the king and he says, I'd like to marry your princesses. But he knew he's an old man, he's been underwater, his skin would be all disheveled. So he used his tapobal, the power of his pious activity, the pious credits, and he made himself very youthful. He created a beautiful environment, married 50 princesses. So why is this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the 9th canto? We'll come back to that. Let's build up the why. The second is King Pururava and Urvashi. Now, when you read that, it's like, Hare Krishna, how is that actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam? King Pururava, there are characters in the Srimad Bhagavatam that are very difficult to understand. There are many stories of emperors within the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's Parikshit Maharaj, there's Prithu Maharaj, there's Dasharath, there's Janak, there's Dhruva, there's Muchukunda. These are emperors of the world. And then there's Pururava. He was a very powerful emperor, very handsome, very youthful, and he controlled the entire world to a point where the residents of the heavenly planets actually were like, wow, who is this personality? They didn't have Instagram in those days. They literally were aware that there is this great personality, Pururava. And Urvashi, who's one of the highest apsaras, got attracted to him. And she came down and wanted to enjoy with him. And in all that, he lost complete perspective. It's a long story back. Indra wanted Urvashi back to him. So Indra played weird tricks, and within a second, Urvashi just rejected him and walked away. And King Pururava was infatuated. He was like a madman, begging, crying, please come back, please come back. And when you read that, your heart goes out, like this person needs some help. He's really struggling. But this is in the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, leading up to the 10th canto. Why is this in the Srimad Bhagavatam? So you've got Saubhari Muni, you've got King Pururava. And today's chapter is about King Yayati. Now, we know that the Srimad Bhagavatam contains 5 truths. There's creation, there's partial dissolution, but it also speaks about lineages. So we start with the Ambrish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni, then we speak about Lord Ram's and all his lineage, and then we come to the dynasty in which Krishna will be born. And Yayati is within that dynasty. The son of Yayati is Yadu, and within the Yadukul, Krishna is born. So we read the characters of Devayani and Sasharmita, the 2 friends that King Yayati actually married. And I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit ahead of where you are at in the Bhagavatam, but the importance is within the story that we're reading today. And you read the story of and the pastime of 2 personalities who, if you isolate the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you just take a printout of that section and you give to anyone, they'll, yeah, it's a regular Karmi story. We read this everywhere. The personalities cursing each other, envious of each other, to a point where they cursed each other, and Sasharma was the princess, and Devayani was the daughter of Shukracharya. We just read that. Those 2 are friends. They're supposedly friends, but they're cursing each other and causing each other to be. She was thrown in a well, and then King Yayati comes, he takes her out, and Devayani says, please marry me, because now that you've held my hand. Imagine the purity in those days. You hold a hand, and she's like, no one else would be able to touch me. So Devayani then goes to Shukracharya and says, my friend has done this to me. So please, you need to do something. And Shukracharya, who is Shukracharya? Generally, spiritual master of the demons, that's right, Manu Prabhu. But he's a Brahmana. He does tapasya, he does yajna, he has knowledge of the scriptures. Very powerful personality. And when he heard of what his daughter went through, not him that he went through, his daughter went through, he's going to the king and he's going to go and curse the king, and the king immediately realizes Shukracharya is coming, there's going to be a problem. So he goes and begs, my dear Brahmana, how can I serve you? Very nicely, very calmly, and Shukracharya kind of melts with that. But pause here and reflect on the principle that Shukracharya is about to go out and curse someone just because his daughter is affected. So his daughter asks, please, whenever I get married, the king's daughter should become my slave. The same friend now is going to be the slave. And that's what happens. So the king agrees. He realizes otherwise his daughter will be destroyed. So he gives his daughter away and she becomes the slave. And King Yayati is now married to these two. Now King Yayati, we all know from the Srimad Bhagavatam that the king is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And his kingdom, all the living entities are called Praja. So even the plants and animals are like his children and he has to look after them. And obviously there was some detail in the past time where Susharma said that please, I'd like a child through you, and that is the principle of a Kshatriya to do that. So he did, and Devayani found out. She goes to her father and says, this is terrible. And her father, Shukracharya, goes to Yayati and curses him that you will become an old man and lose your youth. Now think about this. Again, in the same scripture that we're reading, the Srimad Bhagavatam, right at the start, who's cursed? Parikshit Maharaj. Who curses Parikshit Maharaj? Shringi, the son of Shamik Rishi, curses Parikshit Maharaj to die in 7 days for an offense. What was the offense? He put a dead snake around Shamik Rishi. Now Shamik Rishi chastises his son. Like, how could you do that? And that's where the verse is quoted, that the king is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the offense that he did was very minor. I mean, nothing happened to me. I just flicked the snake when I came out of my trance. So why are you so concerned? And why did you do this? And it's obviously arrogance that came through. So here, Shukracharya curses Yayati for something that he did not really do. There wasn't really a major grave offense that he committed. So you can see, even within those times in the scripture, parenting, there are parents who are of that nature. There would be, Srila Prabhupada described that children are extended sense gratification. So the parents tend to enjoy through the children, and they will do anything to make sure that happens. And that causes a lot of complications amongst dealings within devotees. So that is Yayati. Then he got cursed. Now he's on the other end of the spectrum of parenting. So he goes to his sons and says, please take my old age from me. Now can you imagine? You've got one parent who's wanting to make sure not even a molecule of trouble comes on his child. And on the other end, you've got Yayati's like, my son, just take all my old age so that I can enjoy as a king. And he literally says, I can enjoy all my senses. Now he goes to his first son, Yadu, and Yadu's like, no, I can't do that. Now it's explained in the Bhagavatam, Yadu's refusal is religious because he knows that Krishna is coming in my lineage. So his refusal is dharmic. Many times when we refuse a particular service that is given to us, we need to really reflect, is this religious or is this irreligious? What is the basis of my refusal? Am I doing it for my own sense gratification, or am I doing it really because my refusal of that will actually help in my services? So then his son Puru says, okay, my dear father, I will take your curse. And Puru, who's a young man, becomes old and invalid. And Yayati goes about enjoying with the same person. Now, imagine, Devayani and Susharma are the mothers of these children. And their child has taken on the curse of the father. I mean, it's very bewildering to understand. And then you really wonder, like, how is this in the Bhagavatam? You'd expect, you're going into the 10th canto, the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'd hear, complex philosophies about the soul and why we are where we are. But it's very, very important to deeply read through these pastimes and understand what are the principles that are being shared here. So, again, Yayati did not commit any offense. He got cursed. He passed his curse down to his son. So Puru, being an obedient son, received his father's curse and took it upon himself. And again, the question is, why is this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 9th canto, just before we're entering the 10th canto, the pastimes of Krishna? So let's consolidate all three of these and take some lessons learned, and then we can open up for discussions. So we started off with who? Saubhari Muni, right? So Saubhari Muni, how did he actually get into this position? Let's analyze how he actually got to that position. So Saubhari Muni was doing tapasya in the river. Which river was it? Yamuna River, yes. And within the Yamuna River, within the Dham of Vrindavan, he's doing that tapasya. And there were many fishes there. Now it's explained that Garuda used to come and he would eat the fishes and the snakes in the river. Now, Saubhari Muni, being present there, had what is called misplaced compassion. When you are being compassionate towards souls, that it is not the right position for you to do. So he cursed Garuda, like, if you enter these waters, you will die. And Garuda, it's explained by our acharyas that he could have counter-cursed, and Garuda, being the carrier of Vishnu, could have just, nothing would have actually happened to him. He won't die, obviously. Who's going to carry Lord Vishnu? But still, out of respect, he said, okay, I'm not going to come here. And that's why Kaliya went and sat in that same place. That's how Kaliya got his refuge. But what did Saubhari Muni do? He judged a devotee. Now, what is this guy eating? Why is he eating like this? And he's disturbing these fishes who I'm attached to in some way. So Saubhari Muni, his fall down happened in two ways. One, he got attached to the fishes. We hear Bharat Maharaj, not Lord Ram's brother, but Bharat, the king in the Bhagavatam. He got attached to a deer. And the next time he got born as a deer. Thankfully, Saubhari Muni didn't get born as a fish, but he was definitely attached to the fish. And he got married to 50 princesses. And he used all his tapasya. Now, how did he acquire all that wealth? Was through controlling his senses. And in 1 second, because of that offense, there was a piercing in that coverage. He wasn't able to control his senses. So no matter how hard you try externally, the internal reason is to be offenseless. So we chant the 10 offenses to the holy name every day before we chant Hare Krishna. Why? So that we are remembering the central point is you can chant however much you want. But for it to actually bear the fruit of love of Krishna, it has to be offenseless. So Saubhari Muni's offense towards Garuda, now again, we're talking about curses here. Garuda didn't actually die. He didn't actually go through any physical ailment. He was just cursed not to enter a particular section of the Yamuna. He could have gone upstream, downstream, no problem. So nothing major happened to Garuda. But Lord Krishna is never happy with any of his devotees unnecessarily being cursed or being chastised or offended. So Saubhari Muni's fall down happened from there. Now think about it. He offended a devotee. And he came into this position. But Krishna's mercy is still there. He realized, okay, after many years of enjoyment, Saubhari Muni is thinking, what has happened? I was in the prime of my tapasya. I used all that merits. And again, it's bhakti carries over life to life. But your karmic credits and your tapasya credits do not carry life to life. So he used all of that up to create a beautiful environment, palaces, to enjoy with his queens. And at the end of the day, after all that, after really diving deep into sense enjoyment, he was dissatisfied. So satisfaction of the senses does not come through engaging those. And he realized very quickly, I have wasted so many years. I was so close. And with a deeply regretful heart, he rejected and gave up all of that and took to devotional service. That is why the story is in the 9th canto. To give us that very clear understanding. You can be a great yogi, you can do many tapasyas. For many years, you ultimately have to give it all up and to take to devotional service. Then we come to King Pururava. Wow, that story is very interesting. In fact, it's explained that when Srila Prabhupada was doing the translations, BBT would edit and print. So the books were available 1 canto at a time as they were published. Now imagine the time where you've only got up to the 7th canto and you're waiting for the 8th canto, and then the 8th canto is released. And then the 9th canto comes and devotees are reading the 9th canto and they don't know the 10th yet. There was the Krishna book. But how fortunate we are today, eh? How fortunate we are. So devotees, when you hear the talks of devotees in the 70s, when they read the pastime of King Pururava, they were really bewildered. Because there's no closure in the 9th canto on King Pururava. It just ends with him still in that state of infatuation towards Urvashi. And he is, in the 11th canto, there's a closure of that story, where he's now explaining that I went crazy. And it's explained in his own words that I wasted many years of my life being infatuated towards someone who didn't really care about me. And I could have channeled that same energy and love towards Krishna. And the benefit that would come to me would be multifold. And most of the time, he explained, and the explanation I would highly recommend, 26th chapter of the 11th canto, if you want to close the King Pururava's pastime, do read that. Where he explains like a dog, he was being treated with Urvashi holding his neck like this, and he was still begging her at her feet. A king who subdued the entire world, who had all the armies, the entire world in his command, was begging just one individual who didn't really care for him. So why is this pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam? It is there to remind us. Saubhari Muni was tapasya. King Pururava did all of his achievements through his actual physical karma. He conquered all his enemies, he did all his dharma properly, but he didn't do devotional service. So no matter how high you are in the position of the society, you have to take to devotional service for it to actually satisfy the self. And he indulged his senses, just like Saubhari Muni. But I'll come to that particular pastime. But infatuation, attraction, and lust ruined years of his life. And that is a key takeaway. For the King Pururava, time is of the essence. At least in those ages, you would live for 10,000, 100,000 years in Satya Yuga, 10,000 in Treta, 1,000 in Dwapar, 100 years in Kali. We only have 100 years. And of the 100 years, there's only 2 decades roughly of actual youth. After that, your body starts to tell you that, hey, I'm slowing down. The mid-30s to 40s. King Pururava explains, I ruined all those cherished years of my life. And then when we come to the final is King Yayati. Now, his son took his age. As a son, King Puru understood, my father is going through a lot of trouble. I need to be there for him, because he was there for me when I was born. And the essence that we're taught there is performing your dharma as a child, a son or daughter. He was there for his father, and he knew his father was a little distracted. His father wants to enjoy senses and wants me to take all his suffering. Okay, no problem. I will do that, because that is my dharma as a son. That is a very, very elevated position to be in. Let's not imitate. We can follow the pastime. And then Yayati enjoyed his senses like anything. And similar to all the others, Saubhari and King Pururava, at the end Yayati realized, Hare Krishna, I've wasted my life. None of these the senses that he had access to. He was the king. He had access to the best food, the best dining, the best relaxation, best sense gratification on all senses. Yet he was not content. And the Bhagavad Gita 3:39 explains that Avritam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairina kama rupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. That this lust is the eternal enemy of the living entity. And no matter how much you indulge in your senses, it'll never get satisfied. It's like pouring ghee into the fire. So King Pururava very much realized that I need to give this up. And with that, he gave up everything. And his wife, Devayani. Now, it's important to understand, Devayani, who was the one who caused all this trouble, got Shukracharya to curse King Yayati because of the association of her husband, King Yayati. In that state where he was renounced, he's like, that's it, I'm done. Krishna, you are my only shelter. She also took shelter of the Supreme Lord. Same with Saubhari Muni, all his 50 princesses, the queens that he was married to, also realized, hey, this is not it. This is very temporary and unsatisfying. And they too took to Krishna consciousness. So the culmination of all these three pastimes is very important to understand, because that is where you start the 10th canto. And it is meant to give us a very clear understanding that we need to give up all these bodily conceptions of life, wanting to enjoy senses, being infatuated, wanting certain people in our life, wanting certain things in our life, wanting particular enjoyments. None of that completely satisfies the heart. And it's explained that Yayatma Suprasidati is only Shuddha Bhakti. That which completely satisfies the self, the heart, is only pure devotional service. And that devotional service has to be unmotivated and uninterrupted. So in these stories, what is also important, all these devotees, they make some mistakes. They fall down, they get attached, they get crazy, infatuated, they get cursed, and they start cursing devotees. But Krishna is still there when they turn to Krishna. Krishna, I am yours, I'm done, this is too much. Now Krishna didn't say, but when I gave you the chance, you weren't there. Why should I be here for you? No, Krishna is eagerly waiting for the devotees to turn to him. So it is actually a hope-giving canto. The 9th canto gives very realistic pastimes of personalities who were kings and who were very powerful beings who could do tapasya underwater. Who are we compared to them? If they could have these subtle weaknesses and fall downs, well, we're nobody compared to them, right? So for us, the lesson learned is that we need to be turning through Srila Prabhupada and our gurus, our teachers, to Krishna very sincerely. Taking King Pururava's teaching very importantly, you don't have enough time. Don't waste your time in frivolous activities, trying to enjoy senses, trying to accumulate. In Saubhari Munis, don't judge devotees. Whatever they're doing, just try and facilitate however you can serve them. And in King Yayati, your responsibility to your family is very important. The fact that he just passed his curse down to his son so that he could enjoy, he openly shared that with his son. That's a reflection of someone who's not really doing his dharma, but he's a king. Krishna still accepted all of them. Now, when I'm speaking to all of you, you all are really advanced, pure devotees, and this is me speaking to myself, but this gives me hope because I'm very fallen and I have a chance then. If I turn to Krishna, then Krishna will take to me. So the way the cantos are arranged in wrapping up, it is very significant for us to go through them sequentially. Srila Prabhupada very emphatically said, do not jump to the 10th canto. And he emphatically said, do not jump to the Rasa Leela in the 10th canto. People typically do that. You have to study systematically each canto. And it's very beautiful, he created that system in our temples. Every day you read verses, every day. And the way even he set it up, he would chant and there's a response. You respond 3 times. There's so many verses that devotees explain. They were in one Bhagavatam class 10 years ago. And they were the ones who were also reciting the verse. And they never got back to that verse. But because they were there reciting, later on when they read that verse immediately came back. So Srila Prabhupada's arrangement is that it is a way of memorizing the Bhagavatam as well. And as we discussed, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Grantha form, in the book form, in a scripture literature form. So we serve Srila Prabhupada's purports by analyzing them like this, and through him we serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll pause here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. We have some time for questions and reflections. Please. Oh, Maharaj, please add. Please add, Maharaj.
I just have 3 points I want
Please.
to make. Offenses are offenses.
Very nice.
Number 2, would it have been better or Sri would have been less offended if it was a living snake? It was dead snake.
For the dead snake, yes.
It could bite.
He could have bitten that, it's so true.
And number 3, I was talking about Shobhari Muni. He got agitated by seeing 2 fish coming together.
Yes.
So, is anybody familiar with W.C. Fields? He was a comedian in the 30s and the 40s. Ever heard of him?
W.C.
Fields? He was quite, he had good one-liners. Now, he was quite a drinker. He was an alcoholic. And someone asked him, do you like water? And he said, no, I don't like water. Fish have sex in it.
Oh. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for that. Yes, we'll go like this. Yes, Prabhu. And then Jai Prabhu.
Trying to wait for Maharaj.
Darshan for you.
Oh, that's darshan.
He had a red nose, big red nose, he was alcoholic.
Oh, Krishna.
And he'd take alcohol, but didn't like
You didn't like water. Yeah.
For the reason mentioned.
That was
Hare
great.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Swami. Yes, Prabhu. And then Jai Prabhu.
Sorry, my voice. Just something that's even more, I guess it adds a layer of humor to this pastime. The way that fish actually mate is that the female lays eggs, and then the man will like release
Fertilize them, yes.
fertilize them. So it's like they don't even contact each other.
Yes, yes.
So it's like it's really funny
How that happened, yeah. Yes. It's a good point, yeah. When you make an offense, even the most ridiculous things can cause your fall down. So that spark is definitely there. Jai Prabhu.
Prabhu, thank you very much.
Thank you,
for-
Jai Prabhu.
You like very perfectly laid out like where we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, and you explained the essence very wonderfully.
Jai.
So I had two questions. I
Yes.
can ask one and then later. So you said like we shouldn't, if we are not in a position, we should not be compassionate towards other souls.
Yes.
So as a Vaishnava, we should be compassionate towards others.
Yes.
But at the same time, understand this point, like we should not be compassionate because like so many things are going on right now in the world, and it's not in our hands,
Yes.
and it's very disturbing too.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit about that, like why is that we should not be compassionate towards other souls?
Oh, I'll just maybe clarify. I think
Yeah.
misplaced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think compassionate is what Srila Prabhupada has asked us to be, and therefore that is what fuels our preaching. Otherwise, we'd be like, oh, you're fallen, stay fallen. But because when we see them in a fallen state, then we develop that compassion to preach. So the misplaced compassion is, I remember one day, was it Jayadvaita Maharaj, or someone was explaining that when King Bharat fell down and he saw that deer, he's like, he could have given him some Mahaprasad and water and let Krishna deal with the rest. But he made sure, no, I want to make sure every aspect of this deer's life is taken care of. That is misplaced compassion. So the misplaced compassion that Saubhari Muni was doing was, he was associating the fish to be his family, and Garuda is coming and eating them. Now he's meditating on the Supreme Lord himself, and this is the carrier of the Lord. He could have said, hey Garuda, please come stand here, let's talk about Krishna, tell me some pastimes. How does it feel to carry Krishna on your shoulders, and let's have some Hari Katha. Instead, he said, oh, that's offensive. So that's misplaced. He's trying to protect his family, in quote, the fish, and he's forgetting his spiritual family. Garuda and him are devotees. So in that is misplaced compassion. So, for example, you see a dying seagull at the lake, in the last stages of its life. What can you do? What is the minimum you can do is stand there and just make sure you're chanting a few mantras directly that it can hear in the dying breath. Misplaced compassion is you're taking it out, you're trying to bring it back to life. And if you can do that, if you're equipped to do that, and you're knowledgeable working with animals, sure, do that. But your compassion, in essence, to summarize, it has to be within the bounds of what you're actually capable of doing. So if you're not capable of taking on someone else's pain, or even their karma, don't go there. Rather than channel them towards someone who can actually help them in a deeper way. So always you have to be compassionate, but also protecting yourself. Like in South Africa, there's book distribution is very big, and there's one particular devotee who was distributing many books. But in trying to be very compassionate towards an individual, he had a fall down. And he realized it immediately, but when he reflected on it, he said, I was really just trying to help. And that's where it's like you need to draw safe boundaries around yourself. What are you capable of doing? And that compassion has to be within that bounds. Yes, Prabhu, the world is really going through a terrible time. The suffering, the wars, the people that are going through that. When you see those, the best you can do is try and give them Krishna, and that too within your own capability and capacity. After that, leave it to Krishna. Protect yourself. That is also, self-compassion is also a form of compassion. So be compassionate towards yourself. Hope that answers, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Sarthak, Prabhu. And Moni.
One more question. So, Prabhu, thank you for such a beautiful class.
Hare Krishna.
Three key takeaways. First one is the perils of lust. Because Prabhupada often emphasizes in Ahara and Maithunan part is the most dangerous. So,
Yes.
That's the starting point of all.
That's right.
That's the first one. Second one being
like you mentioned how in 11th canto it is mentioned that all this unnecessary attachment which led to lust will be no favor towards Krishna in the first place. So I think if we are able to do that, if we are able
Yes.
to kill the attachment and love towards Krishna,
Yes.
it prevents from becoming lust and anger.
That's right.
And the third one is no matter whatever mistakes we do, others do, Krishna still loves us, and then
Yes.
who are we to judge others for it?
Yes. Thank you, Sadhguru. Yeah. And Krishna, just the way we want Krishna to love us no matter what our fall downs and our shortcomings are, Krishna, Radha Krishna, they are like that towards all living entities. And therefore, who should we be to judge? We don't want to be judged, but we are first to judge others. So, great point, Sadhguru. Thank you, Prabhu. Morning, Prabhu.
Thank you for the
Hare Krishna.
I want to kind of verify my realization if it's correct. You're talking about misplaced compassion. So I was trying to connect it with one thing that you said, like family or children are extended sense gratification.
Srila Prabhupada said that.
So Saubhari Muni was considering that
Yes,
area or that is to be his family.
that's right.
And that was kind of his own way of gratifying his senses,
Yes,
seeing them as a family. And it also comes, misplaced compassion I feel like comes from a sense of ego, that I am the doer
yes,
and I can
yes.
protect this individual, I can do something about it.
Very true.
So, pastime of Bharat Maharaj, he felt like he was capable or he should take care of that deer.
Yes,
So that's why
yes.
it kind of caused the fall down. So
Very true.
my understanding is that.
Yes, Prabhu, very true. If the center is yourself, that I am the one who can protect you, I can shelter you from Garuda. So Saubhari Munis might be feeling this. Again, he's a great devotee. We don't offend him, but trying to role play, if we play the role of Saubhari Muni, I'm going to protect you fishes, and therefore I'll be able to curse them. I have enough tapobal. But is that his position to do? To stop another devotee and come in? That is, yes, misplaced compassion. And it comes from that ego of, I'm the one who's protecting you. I'm the one who's here to deliver you. That's why when you look at, again, I have to always turn to the example of Srila Prabhupada because he's the perfect example for us. When he extended his mercy to all the devotees at that time, he was saying, I am just a very fallen servant of Krishna. Now he's Jagat Guru, he has the ability to deliver the entire world. And he's telling the hippies, I'm just a humble servant of Krishna. And you are representatives of my Guru. So when you have that complete freedom from ego, and your focus and meditation is I'm serving Krishna and my Guru, then your compassionate is empowered. Your compassion is empowered by their mercy. But if it's ego-driven, yes, exactly. That's when it comes to that.
I also had a question.
Yes, bro.
So, maybe Jaipur will ask.
Let's go in sequence. So we'll come back to Jaipur and then we'll come back to you. I don't see any other hands, so just pause that question.
So
Yes,
it was
Jaipur.
about sense gratification.
Yes, bro.
Like when I was outside, I had danced in Ganesh Utsav and on mundane songs and everything. I was enjoying that
Yes.
kind of thing, but I realized like that was completely foolish to do that because it's not fulfilling.
Yes.
At the same time, I'm dancing here in the kids and in front of the deities and everything, but it's very
Yes.
fulfilling.
Yes.
But it's still sense gratification, I think, in some way, because you are enjoying prasadam, opulent prasadam. I want to listen to fancy kirtans. I want to play fancy mridanga.
Yes.
Isn't still a sense gratification? Like how is like two different things?
Very deep question, Jaipur. That is very deep. So it is, and when you're dancing, I just remembered a very funny incident that a friend of mine shared. He's much older than me, again, from South Africa, where him and his wife both came to Krishna consciousness together. And again, they were from that, like most of us, just enjoying life, and they come to Krishna consciousness. And they had some experiences with devotees. They started practicing, not initiated or anything. And then they had some experience that they didn't like. They're like, we don't want to do anything with Krishna consciousness. Let's go back to sense gratification. So they said, okay, what did we used to do? Let's go to the dance floor. So they went on the dance floor and started dancing. And within a few minutes, they realized they're doing the Swami step on the dance floor. They're like, this is it. They came running to the temple, begging, Krishna, please, never again. So the consciousness with which we do anything determines whether it is for us or it's for Krishna. It's explained the gopis would dress very beautifully with only the desire to please Krishna. When we dress beautifully, what's our desire? To please ourselves, to get attraction. And that's the difference. The end, the object of what you're doing doesn't change. It's the internal consciousness that changes. So if you're dancing for Krishna's pleasure and you know really good dance moves, then you do that. Like Bhaktiman Maharaj connects so many devotees, like Jambavan, he does that snake move very nicely. The worm, yes. And you connected that, I know him from Pretoria, but you connected that in the service of Krishna. So if you're able to dance really good moves, in your heart, try and offer it to Krishna. Krishna, this is for you. And that itself will please Krishna. And because Krishna is the root, you're watering the root, you yourself will be pleased. Same with Prasadam. Very opulent Prasadam. We don't just dive in, Mahaprasade, Govinde, and that sets the consciousness that, oh, I'm honoring Prasad. And then all that taste, in that, you would try and taste, In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's explained, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like, Krishna tasted this shak. Dear devotees, taste this. And that consciousness, they're honoring opulent prasad. So the externals, whether it's done outside or inside the temple, the consciousness is what matters. And that fuels whether you're serving Krishna or not. So, and it takes time, Jaya Prabhu. It takes time to get fully into the point of Krishna. Everything I'm doing is for you. So don't be harsh on yourself. It takes time. Maharaj, please.
Krishna's known as Rishikesh.
Rishikesh, yes. Yes.
And that's real Sanskrit.
That's so true. Thank you, Maharaj. Rishikesh. Monil Prabhu.
I think.
Oh, Brihatman Padanga Prabhu.
You can go directly ask him.
Okay, it's just a point from Srila Prabhupada's purport.
Please.
For text 2, I just glanced into it and it nicely summarizes what you were saying in your class. Prabhupada says that people in the mode of goodness take seriously self-realization.
Yes.
Those in the mode of passion are more inclined towards sense gratification.
Yes.
Just because of a tinge of passion, so
Yes.
when he fell down, Yayati Karunava.
Yes.
And Srila Prabhupada at the end here says the solution is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly from a
Yes.
self-realized soul.
100%.
Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava. You get free from the lower modes.
That's right.
Goodness, completely happy. And then it's a striking point that people in the mode of goodness take self-realization or devotional service seriously.
Seriously, that's so true.
This is the solution, is to hear classes from nice Vaishnavas like yourself.
Hare Krishna. Powered by you. Monil Prabhu, we'll end with your question on time.
So, I've heard it somewhere that there are 3 classes of devotees: one who understands by hearing, one who understands by experience, and third one is like they don't understand. So we see.
You read my notes, Prabhu. I read my. I had that as the last point. Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice.
Yeah, 3 classes of devotees, and we want to be the first one. We don't want.
Yes.
We see that all these examples like from Bhagavatam, they went through the experience and then they realized. But that is a kind of painful process because you have to go through that suffering and then you understand that, oh, I'm not supposed to do that.
Yes.
But then how do we come to a point where we hear something and then we try to, implement that and not go through that toil of going through the experience and then taking up something?
That's a great question, Prabhu. And yeah, Srila Prabhupada said first class intelligence is one who listens and says, I'm taking exactly that. Second is like, I want to experience. Maybe it won't happen to me. And it does most of the time. And third is just, they will not listen to the instructions. So to get to the first class takes faith as the first fuel. Whatever is said here will apply to me as well. Like in the Mahabharata, Yaksha asked, Dharmaraj himself asked Yudhishthir, what is the most amazing thing of life? He said, everyone dies and everyone thinks, I'm not going to die. And they see people dying and they're like, oh, it might not happen to me. And that's the thing. So we have to fuel our understanding of the Bhagavatam with the faith that this can happen to me anytime. And with that faith, you practice implementing what you're taught here. And I think the Bhakti Academy and the shelter of ISKCON Toronto and the teachings and the structure that Srila Prabhupada has given us is the perfect environment in which to practice. You'll always get everyone else reminding, hey, Prabhu, remember, this is what's the goal. remember what we read in the Bhagavatam. So that reminder, the perfect faith that this is happening to me, and the practice of it, that I need to just simply follow the instruction. And it's also a matter, as Vedanga Prabhu said, that if you're in the mode of goodness, you have that full surrender. All right, Krishna, whatever you do, I'm going to follow this path. So combination of all these will bring us to that stage.